By now, PlayStation 4 users have gotten their hands on the new update for Operation Spectre Rising, bringing along with it a whole slew of newer additions to the game. As we've discussed, some good, some bad, it's really all up to which you think is which, but along with the update, we saw a refresh to the Contraband stream, and a little different way that it was handled. Yesterday, we broke down why the stream was altered from cutting it from 100 tiers in a 70-day span to a 50-tier stream in just a 35-day span, simply cutting it in half, but mathematically, the pace at which you would need to play to accomplish the full thing is still the same. So if you're looking to get the new melee club weapon, or honestly what I actually think is worth it, the Tiger Shark as that tier 50 reward, what will it take? So today I want to talk to you guys about the best ways to go about this and organically unlocking this in as quick and efficient a way as possible. I think this can be helpful to those that have already been playing on PlayStation 4 for a little under a week now at this point, as well as to those that have yet to experience the content on Xbox One and PC, but can jump in as of this upcoming update on Tuesday. So we're going to break that down here in this video, but before we do, a quick little reminder, if you guys head over to gfuel.com with either the link in the description below or just by heading over there and using the code ESPRESSO, you'll get a whopping 30% off your order until the 7th, and it's a very limited run deal on this, and it comes around once in a blue moon, so if you're interested in checking out G Fuel for the first time, getting a restock, or whatever it may be, now's a better time than ever. Only until the 7th, remember to use code ESPRESSO. That said, how much will it take to get that entire stream unlocked? Well, at minimum, 25 hours of in-game time, assuming you don't buy the tiers. And yes, I know, I actually did end up buying the tiers, it's an investment into my job, but for many, that purchase won't turn into revenue after putting it in. So firstly, I wouldn't recommend buying the tiers because outside of the weaponry, there's really not all that much too worth it. And secondly, the concepts and methods discussed today are entirely valid and of course, can save you that cash. So let's bridge that gap. Let's maximize the time here to the best of possible potential. Let's break it down into 3 categories: tier skips, modes, and then playlists for the easiest consumption of the information. Tier skips to start off are of course going to be a big help in terms of getting the most out of a short spurt of time, but of course can only happen once a day. Now, you can, in theory, end up getting this entire stream by simply playing once a day, but that of course is contingent on you coming back every single day, but there actually is, again, a way you can maximize it so you can if you end up chaining these days together. The best way with tier skips comes down to simply playing zombies. Zombies can be a hefty start to that day in terms of getting a head start on your tier skips. You have the possibility of knocking out 2 total in roughly a 30-minute span. Your first one comes in the way of getting to round 15 in a ranked match and is in the same vein across the board as your MP as winning 1 match or your first merit in Blackout. That's global, but in zombies in particular, the daily callings also end up awarding you with 1 additional tier skip outside of that for completing whatever challenge it may be up on deck for you that specific day. It won't be the same for you day to day, naturally, as a daily challenge. Most of the times, though, you can end up knocking both of these out in around a 30-minute span. 2 tiers for a half hour of work is pretty solid when you consider 2 hours of MP or Blackout yields roughly the same. Though a fair warning, if you do end up going for this for those 2 tiers and can knock them out in about a 30-minute span, if you want to play a little further, I would not recommend playing zombies for the sole sake of ranking up your stream, simply because outside of that, well, there is no tier progression within zombies. That's still a major pitfall, I think, here with that 3rd mode, and isn't necessarily fair to the zombies grinders out there. But it is something that's the cards we're dealt, unfortunately, at the moment, so if you want to continue on, after that point, swap over to MP or Blackout. But if you end up solely sticking to this method, you surprisingly will be able to complete the stream with some time to spare. Considering on PlayStation 4 you still have 29 days and a few hours and change, and a full 35 coming up on Xbox One and PC, so it'd be roughly about a week left depending on the platform just by simply doing this, but the majority of the audience here on the channel, I can almost infer and guarantee, don't want to specifically play just zombies. So for those that don't want to just dabble in that mode, let's talk about some other ways as well. The next best consistent way for players to end up getting tier skips is, for those consistent players again, Blackout by far. I've mentioned this here on the channel a few times, and I don't mean to let my personal love of Blackout and bias show, but simply from an in-game playtime perspective, which is what this is all based on, Blackout is the most consistent offering for unabridged in-game time progression. If you can end up lasting in, say, the top 15 to winning the game, you can net yourself anywhere from 15 to 22 minutes in-game of uncut time. No intermissions, no death screens, no interference whatsoever. So if you play for survival, you can knock out 1 tier every 3 games or so, and again, mathematically speaking, actually under every 3 games, since each lasts roughly about 22 minutes if you end up winning each game consecutively. And if you end up putting together a squad, that actually becomes exponentially easier with the communication and the tactics that players can feed off of each other with. Of course, again, none of this is guaranteed, as you would say in some longer modes of respawn MP matches, but for consistent players, this is definitely the best way that I would recommend. Every 3 matches you knock out a tier, and of course, with that first merit, you do get that daily tier skip each time you come back after 24 hours. Also, quick little fun fact, if you're playing duos or quads, and you end up dying, don't leave immediately. Spectate your team until that's completely done, because that actually counts your in-game playtime until you back out to that lobby. So you're in-game even if you're dead, earning time towards that tier progression. So just kick back, enjoy some time with your friends, and earn some decent tiers here out of this. Let's talk modes and playlists for MP, because this is a guaranteed time frame at this point. Granted, you will have more intermittent breaks like half times, pre-game lobbies, loading screens, class selections, and so on and so forth, but ultimately, it is guaranteed time without variability, like the chance that you win a match of Blackout, and then the very next game you end up not being able to find a weapon off a spawn and dying immediately. So those things do happen elsewhere, but in MP, it's more so regulated. You have a more so guaranteed time with that, even though there might not be as much up front. Now for MP, we end up seeing that the best game modes here for this are probably anywhere in the ballpark of Safeguard, Control, Domination, Search and Destroy, and probably in that order. Your objective with each of these, though, is to elongate them as much as possible. So if at all possible, take it to the round limit. Things like Control, Safeguard, and Search and Destroy can end up netting you the highest tier for this. But again, that might be contingent on you having a party to be able to communicate that with your team. If you end up trying to play solo, it might be tough to try and get 4 or 5 other players to do exactly how you want, pushing them forward to take the rounds you want and letting them sit back to allow the enemy to take the ones they should might get a little tougher. But things like for Safeguard, you end up getting at the max 4 rounds, which will last you 20 minutes max at that point. So you'd be roughly averaging at least 15 minutes a game probably, which nearly would equate out to, again, a full Blackout match. Lobbies may be limited because not necessarily the most populated playlist, but it's certainly possible to find some, and you can come across some decent lobbies there. Some might be sweaty, maybe not in others, but it'll definitely be something that can help you in the long run. Domination in terms of other game modes, talking about those ones that don't necessarily have the overtime rules and things, Domination will last you roughly 10 to 12 minutes and is more so that more popular and more regulated game mode. It's the TDM of the objective and longer modes, because that's probably where the highest population is outside of TDM actually, but you'll end up having 10 to 12 minutes almost guaranteed, but also in exchange have more in pregame lobbies and half times compared to other modes. Things also to consider, but are not always guaranteed, are your Chaos and Endurance modes. Now these come around once every while. They're not guaranteed, we don't always have them week after week, but when Chaos and Endurance modes come around, you can end up getting anywhere from 15 minutes to even upwards of 40 minutes, like Chaos Control would allow you to end up playing. Again, that takes a little bit more coordination, but those, especially the endurance modes, are a lot easier because they're double the score limit. So normally, about another half to a full match on top of that without having to step out and go back to a pregame lobby. So it all works out in that end, and if you can, keep an eye out for those, though they don't come around again entirely on a regular basis. We don't have a guarantee that we'll always have one week after week. But outside of your game modes like Zombies, Blackout, and MP game modes of Safeguard, Control, Domination, Search and Destroy, and such, what else can you do? Well, there is actually one more thing, but it's something that doesn't actually deal with your gameplay, but instead maybe something that you find some value in personally. That being your special order shop bonuses. Now, in your special orders, you end up seeing that the bundles that come along in that specific location end up offering a 5% tier boost. With Grand Heist and the 12-day spin or whatever it was for the special orders, we ended up seeing that we had 6 different special orders throughout the entire event. Not quite on par with the 10 weeks that we had at that point, but 8 bundles that offered 5% tier boost each. Now, there is a cap on this, but it offered you a couple of different things that if you didn't like one shop item, you didn't get punished in terms of trying to compound that up to that max of 25% that you could end up getting. And while we have a split of this event into part 1 and part 2, seemingly with Spectre Rising and then Days of Summer seemingly taking over on June 4th, we'll end up seeing probably these shop items not refresh, but instead continue on throughout, so that we'll have roughly, again, 8 items or so like we saw with Grand Heist, but for this time around. So if you were to, in time, end up getting 5 of those items out of the 8, you'll end up having a 25% tier boost, which will ultimately then bring you to 45 minutes per every tier compared to 1 hour. which of course can make a difference when you think about it in the long term, but why I'm kind of hesitant to really kind of push this as a sort of tip is that, well, unlike Grand Heist, it's not going to have as much an effect on this specific contraband stream because it's only 35 days long. So while if you take a look at the special orders right now in the Blackjack shop, it looks like we're back on to a week rotation of the special orders. Not that 12 days like we previously saw with Grand Heist, but instead refreshing weekly. However, if it continues like that, well, the very max you can end up getting for this specific split in this contraband stream is 25%. So therefore, come the refresh, that's when you'll have the max that you can end up getting. So that 45-minute split as compared to every hour wouldn't apply until the second half of this event. So it's not as much of an effect as it did have as of, say, Grand Heist. But ultimately, it can still help you. It comes down to, again, just if you feel it's something you find worth your value, whether that be $8 to $10 or so in the special orders every week. But that one's completely up to you, but will actually cost a little bit of money. And as a result of it being something that's progressive, it only slightly fits the bill in terms of trying to progress through the stream as fast as possible. So in that sense, kind of take that one how you will. That said, that is the best ways to rank up your contraband streams and to get the new items, especially that Tiger Shark LMG, as fast as possible. And again, with a shorter duration on this split of the contraband stream, because it is halved both ways, mathematically it's still the same, but you want to take advantage of it as much as possible now, so you're not struggling to unlock the items come the next split on June 4th. So that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is there anything in particular you'd like to add to this tutorial or guide? Anything that you kind of take insightful out of this? Whatever it may be, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, MP, Blackout, Zombies. We got you covered the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best place to get connected outside of YouTube. I can live on both those. So of course, if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, let's head out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.